Most people spend years searching for the next big opportunity, a startup, a hot stock, a crypto coin that promises to change their life. You were looking for something completely different. You wanted a business that people ignored because the more boring it looked, the less competition it usually had. Everything started on a cold Tuesday morning. On the outskirts of town, off a 2-lane highway most people only use to get to the interstate. You weren't planning to buy a business. You were simply driving home after meeting a client when you stopped to fill up your gas tank. Right across the street was an old self-service car wash. Nothing about it looked special. The blue paint was fading.
One of the vacuum stations was out of order. A handwritten out of order sign, taped, half peeling off. The sign had missing letters. If you saw it for 5 seconds, you'd probably think it was losing money. But instead of driving away, you parked. For the next 20 minutes, you watched. A pickup truck pulled in. Then a family SUV, a taxi driver, a food delivery driver, another pickup, then another car. People kept coming. Nobody cared that the building looked old. They only cared about one thing. Their cars were dirty, and this business solved that problem. That's when a simple question popped into your head. If this place looks so bad, why are customers still coming? That night, you couldn't stop thinking about it. Instead of watching Netflix, you opened your laptop. You searched public records, business listings, property records, old sales listings. 3 hours later, you found the owner's name. His name was Robert. He had owned the car wash for 27 years. He wasn't bankrupt. He wasn't struggling. He was ready to retire. A week later, you met him. He wasn't wearing a suit, just old jeans and a faded baseball cap and work boots that had clearly seen 27 years of standing water. He unlocked a tiny office behind the wash bays. Inside was a metal desk, stacks of paper, a coffee maker older than some employees, and maintenance records dating back almost 2 decades, some of them handwritten, not typed. Robert didn't smile much. He just looked at you and said flatly, "So, what do you want to know?" Most buyers asked about the property. You asked something else. How many cars do you wash every week? Robert paused, like nobody had asked him that in years. Nobody's ever asked me that first. For the next 2 hours, he showed you everything. Water bills, soap costs, repair invoices, electricity, insurance, busy seasons, slow months, every single number. When you got home, you started doing the math. The asking price was $94,750. At first, it sounded expensive, but then you looked deeper. The business generated around $148,600 in revenue over the past 12 months. After paying for water, electricity, chemicals, repairs, insurance, and other expenses, the business still produced around $51,300 a year before taxes and financing. That changed everything. You weren't buying a building, you were buying cash flow. Most people only looked at the price. You looked at what the business could produce over the next 10 years. The next morning, you called the bank. You had $24,500 saved. The bank agreed to finance the rest at a rate that made your stomach tighten a little when you signed. A few weeks later, the papers were signed. Just like that, you owned your first business. The excitement lasted about 12 hours. Reality showed up the very next morning. One payment terminal stopped working. A pressure hose burst. One customer demanded a refund. Another complained that the vacuum wasn't strong enough. And then, 3 days in, an $1,100 water bill landed in your inbox, higher than Robert's records had shown for that month. Nobody warns you about that part. Welcome to business ownership. By the end of the first month, revenue reached almost $11,940. Then came the bills. Water, electricity, soap, repairs, insurance, loan payments, payroll. When everything was paid, around $3,850 was left. You stared at the number. It wasn't enough to buy a luxury car. It wasn't enough to impress anyone. Your friend earned almost the same amount working overtime that month. Nobody congratulated you. Nobody even knew you owned the place. But something important happened that day. The business made money without you washing a single car. Customers arrived while you were eating lunch. Cars came in while you were sleeping. Money kept coming in whether you stood on the property or not. That idea changed your life. You weren't trading hours for dollars anymore. You owned a system. During the next 6 months, you didn't buy expensive clothes. You didn't celebrate. Every extra dollar went back into the business. You replaced old vacuum motors, installed brighter LED lights, Added contactless payment, repainted the faded walls. None of those changes went viral, but customers noticed. Monthly revenue slowly climbed from $11,940 to $12,870, then $13,600.
Soon, the business was producing nearly $4,700 in monthly cash flow. That's when you realized something. Rich people don't always earn more. Many simply own assets that keep producing income every single month. One evening, you closed the office and looked back at the car wash. 6 months earlier, everyone saw an old business. Now, you saw something completely different. A machine that quietly produced cash. No headlines, no social media attention, no investors, no fancy office. Just ordinary people cleaning their cars, unknowingly helping you build your future. As you drove home, another thought entered your mind. If one small car wash can do this, what happens if I own 5? That question became the beginning of everything.